The movie begins with two friends, Katie and Rebecca, sitting in Katie's room on a rainy night, watching TV with Rebecca flicking through the channels. Katie says that TV gives her a headache. Becca jumps up excitedly to say that she heard of another weird conspiracy, and there's a videotape that kills you after you watch it. Katie asks what kind of tape she's referring to, and Becca goes on to say it's a regular tape that seemed to be composed of someone's personal nightmare. She also added that the video is followed by a phone call that tells you the number of days left for you to die, and the person will die exactly on that day. Katie asked who told her that. Becca jokingly says it was somebody from a nearby school. Katie then revealed that she had already watched the tape last weekend with Josh, and right after that the phone rang and delivered the same message. She started choking, but then laughed, revealing she was just joking around. All of a sudden, the phone rings at exactly 10 p.m. Freaking out, they both come downstairs. Becca answered the call and pretended that there was a weird voice on the phone before passing it over to Katie. Much to her relief, she finds out it's her mother, Ruth, calling up to check on her. When Katie finally hangs up the phone, the downstairs television turns onto static, scaring her. Carefully approaching the living room, she turns it off using the remote, but when she goes to walk away, it turns back on. She then approaches and pulls the plug, noticing a translucent figure moving in the reflection. She starts to call her friend but gets no response. She starts to freak out and heads upstairs to her bedroom. Noticing a pool of water gathering around her door, she opens it to find the TV on, with an image of a well before she's literally frightened to death. The movie cuts to Katie's Aunt Rachel rushing late to pick up her son, Aiden, from school. The teacher pulls her aside and tries to indicate that her son is struggling to make friends and seems to be doing a lot on his own. Rachel is shown drawings he's been making of someone dead on the ground. His mother tries to explain his cousin passed away 3 days ago, but the teacher points out the drawings were from over a week ago. Still not wanting to deal with it, Rachel walks off and drives her son home. Tucking him into bed that night, the boy says that they don't have enough time. His mother tries apologizing for working a lot and not being around, but the boy says he is referring to the time they had before they died. She tries to assure him he doesn't need to worry about it, but he reveals Katie knew about hers. The next day, the pair heads to Katie's wake. The family's completely broken. Ruth is in tears, and a despondent husband has barely moved since they found out. Later, Ruth explains she's been online searching for an answer as to why the heart of a 16-year-old would just stop. She also spoke to 3 different doctors, and none of them were able to explain what happened. When asked if her daughter had said anything to her or Aiden, Rachel lies and says no, despite what Aiden told her that night. Ruth then begs her sister to look into it. She overhears Katie's friends mention that something scared Becca so much that she was now in a catatonic state inside the local mental hospital. Rachel tries to gain their confidence and solicit information about the events leading up to the weird death. One of the friends, Keller, reveals that the incident spawned from a tape, and the girls believed it to be an urban legend. Curious, she asks what tape he is talking about. One of the girls jumps in, pointing out that it was Katie's boyfriend, Josh, who told everyone about the tape. When Rachel asks him where Josh is, they tell her that he also died the same night as Katie. Cut to Aiden. He sees an image of Katie running upstairs, so he goes to a room and stares at the television, noticing the same weird presence moving behind him. Rachel finds him and goes to him, but he leaves her alone in the room. She goes through Katie's scrapbook and notices the faces of everyone covered in black hair drawn by Katie. She also finds a receipt stamp for next-day photo processing that she had purchased earlier that week. She then goes to pick them up. In the photos, we can see that Katie, Josh, and another couple stayed the night in a cabin at the Shelter Mountain Inn. In one of the many photos taken by the friends, we can see their faces look kind of distorted. Rachel heads to the office and begins poring over news reports. She finds out that Josh fell to his death from a 7th-floor apartment at precisely 10 p.m., the exact time that Katie had perished. She also discovered that the 2 other seniors with them, Scott and Tracy, had died when their car veered off the interstate and crashed into a tree at exactly 10 p.m. Wanting to learn more, Rachel makes the decision to drive up to the cabin. Approaching the clerk of the reception, she asked if he remembered seeing the 4 teenagers last week. He tells her that they stayed for a couple of nights in cabin 12 but didn't pay, pointing out they complained about the TV. He says the poor reception is why they bought tape players for videos and invested in quite a selection of films. Noticing a black tape without a label or cover, Rachel decides to stay in cabin 12 and hands in a credit card to pay for her stay and cover the debt of their needs. As she looks at the tape in her hand, the sun rapidly goes down, casting an orange tint on the cabin. Rachel then plays the tape and sees a number of weird images. From ring currents of bloody water, random objects like a chair and a ladder, 2 shots of a mother brushing her hair in the mirror and looking over to her daughter. We then see a man looking down from his window, a burning tree, a view of the ocean, followed by the mother jumping off a cliff, the ladder falling down, and a shot of a well. When the video ends, the screen cuts to static and the phone suddenly rings. Picking it up, Rachel hears a young girl softly whisper, "7 days," causing her to run out of the cabin and look around in confusion. The following morning, Rachel sits in bed looking at the tape and trying to understand whether her life was in peril. Aiden prepares himself for school. On his way to school, he bumps into his father, Noah Clay, at the entrance to their apartment. He gives him a look before continuing on his own. Noah comes inside and is handed the distorted photo of the 4 teenagers. Rachel then hands him a digital camera and tells him to take her picture. After doing so, Noah is a little shocked to see the same distortion on her face, not only in the photo he took, but also in the many she had taken this morning. In a frantic state, she then tells him that 4 people are now dead, but her ex-husband refuses to believe it had anything to do with the tape. Noah then watches the tape and sarcastically says it looked like a student film and that he was sure it was scary at night, but he doesn't seem that concerned. The phone then begins to ring and they both approach it, but Rachel decides not to answer it. Seeing her concerned expression, he agreed to help her find out who made the tape and where it came from. The next day, Rachel goes to Noah with the tape and they watch it again together in more details. They point out that there's no camera that can be seen in any of the shots. While on it, his girlfriend and assistant Beth arrives. Noah decided to show the video to her, but Rachel takes the tape and leaves. She then visits Becca at the hospital. She asks how Katie died, saying, "I need to know." The despondent Becca simply tells her, "You will because she's going to show you." She looks at her palm and says, 4 days, indicating the amount of time Rachel had left. Using complex scrubbers to stretch the tape, she finds a hidden shot of a lighthouse. She also sees a fly in the video and is able to pick it out of the TV with her bare hand. From there, she visits the library to find out the location of the lighthouse. The investigation comes back to the tape itself, leading Rachel to Anna Morgan, the woman seen in the tape, who lived on Musco Island with her husband and daughter, raising horses. As her time begins to run out, Rachel begins to experience strange things, from terrible nightmares and nosebleeds to surreal events that incorporate things that were found in the tape. Noah, on the other hand, goes to buy something from the supermarket. He finds himself on a convenience store camera and realizes his face in the footage has been distorted just like the picture shown to him by Rachel. He panicked and left. Rachel experiences a terrible nightmare of a girl in her apartment that grabs her hand. She wakes up and sees a mark on the spot she was touched. She rushes to the living room and is horrified to see Aiden watching the tape, meaning he now also had 7 days to live. The phone in the house then rings. She answered and it was Noah at the end. He has taken multiple pictures that also showed his face distorted. He now believes Rachel. They leave Aiden with Ruth while they go up to the island. Rachel then discovers that a mysterious tragedy befell the Morgan ranch, involving all the horses going mad, killing themselves in their attempt to flee. This presumably caused Anna Morgan to become severely depressed and take her life. Noah drops her off on a ferry to the island. She goes over her notes while en route. She spots a horse that is also being transported, so she decides to approach it. She tries to touch it, but it freaks out as if sensing something wicked within her. It breaks free exactly as Anna's horses have done. The animal then jumps off the ferry to its death. Rachel reaches the island and finds Morgan's home from the video. She then finds Anna's husband, Richard Morgan. He is content with talking about the horses, but when Rachel pulls out the tape and tells him she believes it was a message from his wife, his mood changes all of a sudden. When she asks about his wife and daughter, he kicks her out. Rachel goes over a photo that Aiden drew of the Morgan house. She calls him up and asks why he drew it. The boy said he drew it because the little girl told him to. Rachel then visits a local doctor, Dr. Grasnick. Dr. Grasnick reveals that Anna wanted a child more than anything but couldn't conceive. One winter, they left and returned with Samara, whom they claimed was adopted. After some time, Anna began complaining about horrific visions that only happened when Samara was around. Grasnick continues that Samara was referred to the clinic on the mainland, where she believed the girl had remained for the past 30 years. She also revealed that ever since that girl's been gone, things have been better on the island. At the same time, Noah digs up her medical records from the institution and learns about all the unfortunate miscarriages she had before having a daughter. He also discovers that a crucial video from the file is missing, believed to have been taken by Richard Morgan. Rachel then goes back to the Morgan home. She knocks but no response, so she enters. She discovers the missing tapes of Samara, where she is being interviewed by doctors. While watching the video, she is confronted by Richard. He takes all the electronics in the house and places them in his bathtub. He electrocutes himself and Rachel begins to panic, but Noah arrives in time. The pair go to the barn and discover a little room where Samara is kept by her father. While exploring the room, they find a burnt image of a tree. Rachel remembered that the tree was at the Shelter Mountain Inn, so they headed there. They get to cabin 12 and accidentally discover that there is something underneath the cabin. They break the floor wood and find a well there. They are then attacked by flies from the well, which causes Rachel to be struck by a falling TV, making her fall into the well. She wakes up moments before drowning and assures Noah that he is all right. Noah leaves her to find something to rescue her, but the slab on the well begins to cover it. Rachel is shown a vision of Anna smothering her daughter to end the torture cultivated by a strange power. After presuming to have killed Samara, she then dumped her body in the well. Rachel brought out the body of Samara, which looks fresh but slowly fades into its decomposing state, so she let it go. They then called the police to take over the investigation. Rachel concludes the girls simply wanted them to find her body. The pair returned home with their sense of family repaired despite their different paths. Aiden woke up with his mother next to him in bed. She said she was taking time off work to spend the day with him. Aiden asked what had happened to the girl. His mother explained that they had set her free. His mood suddenly changed, and he said she wasn't supposed to help her. Rachel tells Aiden that the girl is not going to hurt him, but looks at his arm and notices the same marks Samara had left on her arm. His nose also begins to bleed. We then cut to Noah going over some prints in his apartment when his TV turns on to static. He turns it off and it turns back on, only to find the well they discovered on the screen. His phone suddenly rings. It was Rachel, but he ignored it. Noah approaches the screen of the TV and sees Samara crawling out of the well and moving to the TV. The unit begins to leak water. And as Noah slowly crawls back in terror, Samara emerges from the television, dripping in water with murderous intent. Samara chases and kills him. With Noah now dead, Rachel, whose phone was not answered, bursts through the door and is shocked to see the ghastly, petrified look on his face. Realizing that his son is about to suffer the same fate, she starts to freak out and destroys the original tape in the fire. She turns around to see the copy of the tape that Aiden had viewed under the couch, flashing back to the interview of the girl saying, "It won't stop." Rachel finally realizes that Samara let her live because she made a copy of the tape and spread her sickness to others. The only way to save her son is for him to make another copy. We then see Rachel guiding him in the process. When Aiden asks, "What's going to happen to the person they show the tape to?" his mother looks on in silence without an answer. Thank you for watching.